So in the previous class, we had a discussion about the task, process, and a thread. And one of the example of a thread, it is a POSIX threads we have discussed. So once the thread is active, unless the completion of that particular thread is nothing but what? It is a set of instructions to be executed. Okay, it is nothing but a part of a process, and process is nothing but a part of a task. So the thread is going to complete its task. Then after completion of the thread, then it is going to allocate all resources to next thread. Okay. So here the concept about multiple threads. If we go for the real-time operating system, it has to perform various processes, and each process is having number of threads. Okay. So obviously, how many threads we are going to count? It is more. So how the system is going to perform its activities, or it is going to complete a task by executing number of processes, and each process is going to complete number of threads. So here, how we can utilize the all shared resources of the operating system or the embedded system. How the single screen, it is shared among all the applications, all the processes. How it is utilized. Even the keyboard also. Keyboard is also shared with among all the applications. Hope I am audible to you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So here, the concept about thread preemption, nothing but what we are going to emit this particular thread, which is running in the system, because the resources which are available in the embedded system, those resources are shared among all the processes, all the tasks. So how the application? Because if you go for the memory only, so that memory, it is used by one of the application is antivirus. Antivirus also want to scan that memory time to time. So meanwhile, you are watching a movie. So that application, that video player, it is also using that memory hard disk where the movie is available, the code respective instructions or the data with respect to that movie, it is that video, it is available in that hard disk, and means it has to go to that memory, fetch the data and execute it. So meanwhile, if the system is performing so many tasks and so many processes, how the shared resources are utilized by an embedded system. So that is due to this thread preemption concept. So what is this one? So here we are going to allocate the resources, not only memory, all the resources. It may be input output device or a memory or a interface devices, whatever it is. If the application want to use that one, that must be what? Allocated with all resources, the required resources. So how these activities going to happen in a embedded system? It is by through thread preemption. So what is this thread preemption? So thread preemption is the act of emptying the currently running thread. That is stopping the currently running thread temporarily, not permanently, temporarily. Means here antivirus is want to run now, then it is going to stop what? It is going to stop that video because it wants memory, it want to access the memory. So the video player application, it is going to wait, it is going to be stopped for a particular time period temporarily. So after completion of this antivirus process, once again, antivirus application is going to hand over the shared memory to this previous thread or previous application. So after the completion of antivirus scanning, once again, it is all the memory handed over to the video player application. So not only these two examples I am discussing here. So whatever with the resources are going to be utilized by stopping the current running thread temporarily, giving permission to run some more thread activities. So that is known as thread preemption. So thread preemption is performed for sharing the CPU time, as we discussed, sharing the resources among all the threads. Okay, it is not like that I need to wait for one thread, completion of one thread. Then I need to go for another thread application. Okay, so if you go for that one, what is going to happen? If you are watching a movie in a video player, so that video player application is using until unless the completion of that process, antivirus has to wait. It is not possible and it is not the right method, isn't it? So what we are going to do in the system, the pre-emitting processes will be done. The execution switching among threads are known as thread context switching and dependent on the operating system's schedule. So as we discussed, it is depend on operating system. So various methods are there. In future slides, we are going to come across all those methods, how we are going to perform this thread preemption. So it is depend on OS to OS, and switching among threads, it is known as thread context switching. So here we are going to discuss about the preemptive task scheduling techniques, how the tasks are going to be scheduled based on this preemptive techniques. So example is this one. If I go for only two example, that is a video player application is also running in this operating system, as well as the antivirus also running in the same system. How the scheduling is going to happen when video has to play without any distance, when the antivirus has to run and it has to scan all the system resources without the system activities. So how? It is purely based on scheduling or the techniques used for these task scheduling. So we go for the scheduler can preempt and stop temporarily the currently executing task or a process and select another task from the ready queue for execution. So here the word comes ready queue. So it is the queue phenomena adopted in all the operating systems, and the queue, which is dedicated for all these execution of processes or a task, that queue is known as ready queue. So whenever the applications or a process which is going to be executed, all those are kept in a queue. Okay. So queue access, it depends on technique. It is not only first in, first out, or first in, last out, what we observed in the general queue concept. In the general queue concept, we are going to observe these two methods, first in, first out, first in, last out. It is not like that in this technique, in this queue. So this ready queue is nothing but what? The queue, that's it. So these are all the processes which are going to be executed in the system. That is nothing but a set of processes. That is nothing but what? A ready queue. So this ready queue is going to be executed. Means all the processes which are there in the queue are depend on techniques, are processed on some techniques, and these techniques are nothing but preemptive task scheduling techniques. So we are going to come across some scheduling techniques. So here it is known as, first one, it is preemptive SJF scheduling. Preemptive SJF scheduling. Then we come across round robin scheduling. Another one, it is priority based scheduling. Okay, so this ready queue is not going to work on the basic method. It is first in, first out, or first in, last out. It is working on some scheduling techniques. So those are according to your syllabus. We are going to discuss about these three type of scheduling. One is preemptive SJF scheduling, round robin scheduling, as well as the priority based scheduling. With some examples we are going to study. So go for the first process, that is preemptive SJF scheduling, or another name it is SRT scheduling. SRT means shortest remaining time. Shortest remaining time. So what is this preemptive SJF? So this SJF nothing but shortest job first. Obviously, by seeing this full form, you have a little bit idea how the technique will be used. Means number of processes are kept in a queue, and one by one the processor has to execute all these processes. But how it is going to select? I need to perform process 1 first, process 2 first come first out. It is not the answer. It is in this method the shortest job first, the time allocated for each process. So among all the processes, it is sorted as per time base. Minimum time process is going to execute it first, then the larger time consuming process is going to be executed. Okay, so the number of processes which are available in the ready queue are sorted as per time. Okay, shortest time to longest time. Clear? So in between, let me tell you, in between, if any process arrives in the queue, and once again this sorting of that queue is going to be happen. Keep it in mind, if any new process enters the queue, then once again the sorting of this queue is going to happen. Keep it in mind. Then it checks whether the execution time of a new process is shorter than the remaining of total estimated time for the currently executing process. Means what? Continuously the processor is concentrating on which one is having shortest time for execution. Okay, so based on that one, the completion of execution of all these processes is going to happen. Okay, so here in all these three cases, we are going to have one assumption. It is the CPU or the system is assuming that all the processes contain only CPU operations, and there is no input and output operations involved in the processes. So what is going to happen if I go for input and output operations? Obviously, it is a time-consuming process. So here we are going to assume one thing, that CPU-oriented operations are going to be available in the queue. No I/O operations are there in the queue. Okay. If the execution time of a new process is less, the currently executing process is preempted. So preempted nothing but what? Stop temporarily. So the currently running process is going to stop if the new process which is arrived in the queue has lesser time period compared to present running process. And that new process is going to be scheduled for execution. Okay, for example, if the video play, meanwhile a new process, suppose the audio player. Okay, so audio player, or instead of audio player, because both are related to same behavior, let's go for the internet download manager. Okay, what is going to happen? You have kept in the background the downloading of a huge file. Suppose that process is completed. So both processes are running, and how they are shared, how they are utilizing the resource, that is memory. So download process is over. That should be pop up on the screen during video playing. So how it is going to happen? So it is nothing but what? Video is go on playing, one application is running, one process is running. Meanwhile, another process enters in that duration. That is known as new process, enters in the queue. What is that process? The process is performing what? This pop-up in one window. Download is over, like that. Okay, download is over. To display that pop-up message, how much time it is required? Obviously, some milliseconds. So compared to the current running process, that is nothing but video player, it is gone running. Okay, the time duration is kept like according to that movie size, that video size. So meanwhile, this few millisecond processes want to utilize that screen because only one screen is available for display. The one process already, the video player application is already utilizing that display screen. Now that screen is going to be shared to that download manager application. So how? It is based on this process. Which one is the shortest time executing process? Obviously, it is the download manager because it wants to use only some millisecond to display in that screen. Once again, it will return back that screen to that video player itself. Okay. So, at that time, we are going to adopt this scheduling technique, that is pre-emit, shortest job first scheduling or shortest remaining time scheduling. So what is going to happen in this process? So if the current running executing process has more time compared to the new process, then the new process is going to be executed by pre-emitting currently running process. Okay. So let us go for, instead of going for this general thing that is antivirus or some video player or download manager, let us go for a particular example here. Suppose there are three processes. There are three processes with process ID. Let me say, instead of going for video player or antivirus or download manager, let me say some process IDs. Let me say it is P1, P2, and P3. P1 process, P2 process, and P3 process with the process completion time. The process completion time, it is 10 milliseconds for P1, 5 milliseconds for P2, and 7 milliseconds for respectively. So what is the time duration for P1? It is 10 milliseconds. P2, 5. P3, 7 milliseconds. Enters the ready queue together. Means all are going to enter at a time in the ready queue. Means all are want to executed by the system. Okay, all are going to enter. Then suppose a new process with the ID P4. A new process with the ID P4 with estimated completion time, that is 2 milliseconds, enters the ready queue after 2 milliseconds. Hope you got the problem statement. What is the problem statement? There are three processes want to execute and they come enter into the ready queue. They are in the queue already. They occupy the location. So after 2 milliseconds, after some time, what is going to happen? New process if enter into the ready queue with the execution time period is 2 milliseconds. So how this example will be resolved by primitive SJF scheduling, assuming there is no IO operations, only CPU operations. Now go for what is going to happen here. At the beginning, there are only three processes available in the ready queue. Obviously, it is P1 with 10 millisecond, P2 with 5 millisecond, and P2 with 7 millisecond. This scheduling technique picks up the process with shortest remaining time for execution completion for scheduling. So obviously it is going to sort all queue contents. How it is going to sort? Based on which one is shortest time remaining time. Obviously here if we compare, the P2 is a 5 millisecond, which is lesser than the P3, which is the 7 millisecond. Once again, P3 is the lesser than P1 because P1 is having 10 millisecond. So P2 is going to be executed first, then P3 is going to be next, then P1 is going to be executed later. So what is the total time duration spent by the system? It is totally 22 milliseconds to complete the execution of all the three processes. Now, what is the condition in the problem statement? Example, P4 process enters. Meanwhile, how? Look at this. A new process P4 with time duration 2 milliseconds enters the ready queue after 2 milliseconds of start of execution of P2. Okay, P2, P3, P1 are already in the queue. They are started executing one by one. But after, while the system is performing, executing the task, after the complete time duration of 2 milliseconds, the new process is going to enter into the queue. That is P4 with execution completion time of 2 milliseconds. Hence, what is going to happen? P2 is going to be kept for 5 milliseconds. P2 is running for 5 milliseconds, but P4 is entering after 2 milliseconds. So what is going to happen? P2 is going to be stopped temporarily. Okay, so that is the thing. Hence, P2 is a preempted, and P4 is scheduled for execution. So after 2 milliseconds, P2 is going to be stopped. P4 is going to continue its execution up to finish. Now, go for that. How it look like? So here, P2 is running from 0 millisecond to 2 millisecond. After this 2 millisecond, this new P4 has arrived with the 2 millisecond and it is going to complete its task. So the total time duration spent by the system, it is 4 millisecond. After 4 millisecond, which one is going to be executed? Once again, the queue is going to be sorted. Once again, queue is going to be sorted. So once again, P2 is left with the 3 milliseconds, isn't it? After 5, 2 milliseconds already over. Half, some part is over. What about remaining part of P2? That is going to be executed based on, once again, that shortest time. So now, after 4 milliseconds, once again, the processor is going to sort all the processes in the queue. How many processes are there in the queue? P2. P2 is there with 3 milliseconds. P3 is there with 7 milliseconds and P1 is there with 10 milliseconds. So which one is going to be executed first now? After P4, completion of P4, it is once again P2, which is lesser than the remaining processes. Okay, lesser completion time compared to remaining processes. So after completion of P4, P2 is going to be executed for remaining time period. So what is the remaining time period? Is 3 milliseconds. So from 4 milliseconds to 7 milliseconds, that time is given to P2. After completion of P2, once again, P3 is going to be executed. After completion of P3, P1 is going to be complete. So what is the overall time period? So previous 22 milliseconds, now it is extended to 24 milliseconds. So that is 2 milliseconds. It is due to a new process which is entered and executed. So this is the way how the scheduling is going to happen with respect to processes. Okay, it is depend on the shortest remaining time. Even though the process is running, that is going to be stopped temporarily because the new process has lesser time period compared to currently running process. So here we can observe the same thing it is discussed. After 2 milliseconds of scheduling of P4 terminates, now the scheduler again, you just observe here, the scheduler again sorts the queue based on the remaining time, of completion of all the processes. So P2 is left with the 3 milliseconds, P3 is 7 milliseconds, and P1 is 10 milliseconds. Therefore, P2 is rescheduled for execution. You can observe here. P2 is running at the initial stage. After 2 milliseconds, P4 enters, it completes, then the P2 is rescheduled once again and executed. After completion of P2, there is no new process. So, as per the queue, P3 is executed. After that, P1 is executed. Okay. So here, the analysis of this execution. Okay, we observed why we need these scheduling techniques. The result of this one is what? We need to analyze the time periods taken by the process as well as the complete. So here we are going to analyze for the calculation of waiting time. So what is the waiting time for each process? There are so many new processes are going to arrive. How long the process has to wait? And the completion time, when it is going to complete. That is turnaround time we are going to call. Turnaround time. When the process is going to, how much time it is waiting time, then when it is going to end, and what are the average of both. Average of waiting time and average of completion time. It is not like that whatever the process, the completion time is allocated by the processor or by the scheduler. Within that time period also the process may complete. It may extend. Once again, it will be rescheduled. If it is lesser the time, once again, the rescheduling is going to happen with queue. So it is kept like such that P1 process is for 10 milliseconds. But due to the minimum time period, it is going to complete within that 10 milliseconds. Obviously, what is going to happen? That time is left. Other so those scheduling now go for the calculation of all these things. So the overall summary of this process is what? Here the total time spent by the system to execute all 4 processes P1, P2, P3 and P4. It is 24 milliseconds. So how it was? First P2 is running. Meanwhile, P4 is going to enter. It is going to execute. Then from 0 to 2 milliseconds, P2, 2 to 4 it is P4, 4 to 7 it is P2. Once again, the 7 to 14 it is P3 and 14 to 24 it is P1. This is the overall summary of those execution things. Look at the waiting time, one by one, process by process. What is the waiting time? So here I have a small table. The small table is representing the process column, the waiting time column, as well as some comments with respect to that activity. Now look at this one. Here the P2, if I go for the first one is sorted as P2. So what is the total waiting time? How much time it is? It has waited. So here P2 is executed in the queue 2 times, between 0 to 2 milliseconds as well as between 4 to 7 milliseconds. Is there any waiting for P2? For each stage, for first time, there is no waiting time. It is not going to wait because once the queue is all the processors arrived, immediately the processor is started executing the queue contents. So first execution time, that is between 0 to 2 milliseconds, it has no waiting period. But between 4 to 7, how much time it has waited? 2 milliseconds, because that 2 milliseconds is consumed by P4 process. Those 2 milliseconds is consumed by P4 process. So until the completion of P4, P2 has to wait. So the overall time, waiting time, 2 milliseconds for P2. So that is the same comment what it is written here. P2 starts executing first and it is interrupted by P4 and has to wait till the completion of P4 to get the next CPU slot. Now what about P4? Next process, P4. Is there any waiting period? No. It is once it is arrived in the queue, immediately it is executed because it has the lesser time. There is no, it never wait. There is no waiting period for P4. When it is arrived, immediately it is executed. Isn't it? It is arrived at 2 milliseconds and it is started executing from 2 milliseconds. So what is the waiting time there? 0. So it is started immediately. It is started immediately. So the waiting time for P4 it is 0 milliseconds. Now look at the P4 process. So by seeing this diagram, you can easily guess so how much P3 is waited to begin its task. P3 is waited up to 7 milliseconds because it is waited for two processes to complete their work, that is P2 and P4. After completion of P4 and P2, P3 is going to run. It is after 7 milliseconds. So P3 is waited for 7 milliseconds. Then what about P1 also? Waited up to completion of 3 processes. What are those? P2, P4 and P3. So it is waited for P3 has to complete. So P3 is going to complete its task at 14th millisecond. So P1 is going to begin its processing at 14th millisecond. So waiting period is how much? Total it is 14 milliseconds. So these are the waiting time for each process. P2 waited for 2 milliseconds, P4 waited for 0 milliseconds, P3 is waited for 7 milliseconds, and P1 is waited for 14 milliseconds. So overall, what is the total waiting period done? Waiting time. The sum is 23 milliseconds. 23 milliseconds. So process overall sum of waiting time by the processors, it is 20 milliseconds. If I go for average, why we go for average? Because we don't know when the process is going to complete before the execution time itself. Because of lesser instruction to be executed or the minimum code is there, whatever may be the thing. Time slot is allocated by the scheduler, but the required time is lesser than the execution time. So obviously what is going to happen? The process is going to complete within the time period. So if we go for that, we need to take the average. So what is each process average? How much each process has to wait? So on an average, it is 5.75 millisecond. It is a waiting period, average waiting time by a single process. It is not like that P1 has to wait for 14 milliseconds. If all 3 processes are immediately completed, on an average, its time comes at least 5.75 millisecond onwards. 5.75 millisecond it has to wait at least. Okay, so that is the waiting time what it has calculated. Now, if we go for the turnaround time when the process is going to complete its execution. Okay, there's the time slot is allocated. That is what? It is 10 milliseconds for P1, 7 milliseconds for P3, and 5 milliseconds for P2, and 2 milliseconds for P4. Then if we look at the scheduling concept, P2 has not at all completed its task at 5 milliseconds only. It has completed its task after 7 milliseconds. It has taken 7 milliseconds to execute its task. You can observe this table here. Here, the table is containing process once again. The turnaround time is nothing but completion time, and there's a comment how to calculate that turnaround time. There is nothing but what? P2. How to calculate it? Execution starting time minus arrival time plus estimated execution time. So estimated execution time, it is already we know. It is P1 for 10 milliseconds, P3 for 7, and P2 is for 5 milliseconds, and P4 is for 2 milliseconds. That is the estimated execution time. But actually, when it is started and when it is arrived. So by looking at these things, it is nothing but what? P2 took 7 milliseconds to complete. You can observe in the diagram also. When it is completed, P2 at 7 milliseconds. When P4 is completed, it is execution start time minus arrival time plus executed start time, it is at 2 milliseconds. Arrival time, it is also 2 milliseconds. So 2 milli minus 2 milli, it is 0. This one is 0. Plus estimated time. What is the estimated time? It is 2 milliseconds for P4. So answer is 2 milliseconds. So start agiddu same time, arrive agiddu, so it is 0 then. Plus estimated time is 2 milliseconds. So P4 has completed its task within that 2 milliseconds. You can observe in the diagram also. So P4 started at 2 milliseconds and at 4 milliseconds. What is the total time duration? It is 2 milliseconds. 4 minus 2, it is also 2 itself. Then, what about P3? How much time it has taken to complete this task? It is arrived at 7 and completed at 14. Okay, so overall answer is what? It is 14 milliseconds. To complete its task, it has taken 14 milliseconds. Then, what about P1? P1 has took 24 milliseconds to complete its task. P1 has taken 24 milliseconds to complete its task. So what is the total time taken by the system to complete all the processes on the total time period, turnaround time? Taking the sum of all processes, it is 7 plus 2 plus 14 plus 20, 47 milliseconds. So if we go for average of turnaround time is 11.75 milliseconds. That is 47 by 4 processes. So it is 11.75 milliseconds. 11.75 millisecond is the average execution time, completion of time. Okay, it is due to what? Some process may take complete within the estimated time, they may extend. So by considering all these Q operations, we may guess that yes, the individual process, it may come at a time or it may be scheduled at any time. It is going to take on an average how much execution time, completion time it is 11.75 milliseconds. So how much time it has to wait? At least 5.75 milliseconds. So this one is based on shortest remaining time. The process which is having minimum time, that is executed first. Later, the more time consuming processes are going to be executed. So whenever the queue is every time once the process is completed its task or new process enters into the queue is once again refreshed by sorting in the given method. What is the given method? Shortest time to largest time. Okay, this one is the simple example what we have discussed in the preemptive shortest job first scheduling. Next one is round robin. Next one is round schedule. So here what is going to happen? So if you go for P1, even though it is important, it has to wait for its time period. It has to wait for its time period. So this one round robin. Here is going to what is going to happen? Here all processes are going to be given equal time slice, equal time period. Whatever may be the estimated time, it is once again rescheduled to specific time period. Okay, how it is, we will discuss this one in the next class.